everyone? Welcome to the Comic Gamer Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I am here to review Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, this movie has had a long journey getting made, people. Many of you know, some of you don't. This movie was technically supposed to be the first movie in Phase 5. This movie was supposed to kick off the entirety. Wasn't supposed to be Black Widow. Before we got anything, before we got a show on Disney Plus, before anything, Phase 5 was technically supposed to kick off with this movie. And then James Gunn got fired, Warner Brothers picked him up, he did the Suicide Squad, and, Peacemaker. Now he's doing the entirety of DC, and he decided that he was going to come back to finish this. That he wanted to finish this trilogy, he wanted to finish his thing. Now, what some people forget, and something I never forgot, I'm going to just be brief before I get into the movie itself, is that technically, just so it could be in the back of your mind when you go see the movie, before James Gunn got fired, this was going to be the end of this Guardians. But it was rumored and, everyone believed it to be true. He was gonna run like the space, Marvel Galaxy space area. He was gonna be like running it. He'd be like underneath Kevin Feige running Marvel, space characters. And presumably he probably would have directed and recreated the new version of the Guardians. So that's just an interesting thing to think about when you see the end of this movie, because this movie does an amazing job of getting over, the same way that Endgame did, the feeling of finality. The feeling that nothing will be the same again, and like you felt it in the movie from the beginning. From the intro, from the Marvel logo, the Marvel fanfare logo, having nothing but the previous Guardians movies and appearances throughout the MCU littered throughout it. Like the same way they had the same way that when Endgame was happening, like they had that kind of thing going on. Same way at the end of Endgame, they had the whole curtain call thing kind of with the original Avengers members and ending with Iron Man, Tony Stark, like. They kind of did something like that at the beginning, like really getting across that nothing will be the same after this. And the movie was shocking. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything because the movie did just come out the other day. So maybe I'll come back and do a spoiler review if you guys want me to do that. But the movie shocked me in many ways, particularly in certain aspects. Now, everyone thought people were going to die, and it was shocking in that aspect about the deaths. The deaths thing was very shocking. Also, it was such an emotionally charged movie. This has to be one of the most emotional, deep movies. It's funny. Now I'm sitting here thinking, I'm weighing the emotions I felt watching Black Panther: Wakanda Forever to this. Regardless of what people think about the MCU, they have really swung for the emotional fences with a lot of their projects. WandaVision, there are sequences in Loki that got heaviness, there are sequences in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They have really swung for the fences with the more emotional, deep shit. And this movie is a perfect example of it. Now, we all know that it was going to center around Rocket and his origin and whatnot, which if you're a comic book fan like I am, if you're a nerd like me, if you're a Marvel guy like me, you already knew what Rocket's origin was. You already know how fucked up it is. If you played the Guardians games, the Telltale game or the new one, you already know how fucked up Rocket's origin and how painful it is for him. So, even me being prepared, already knowing where this was going, already knowing what we were going to see to a certain extent, I'll tell you one thing. If you don't like, sorry, pollen's kicking my ass. But if you don't like the mistreatment of animals, do not watch this movie. I swear, I'm not much of an animal person. Never owned a pet. Not really planning on getting a pet. Maybe when I get older and I'm retired and I can just sit around the house, maybe then I'll get a pet, because then I'm just sitting around the house with a pet. But not now. I don't really want to get a pet. But admittedly, watching this movie, even as someone who's not much of an animal person, I felt sad. I felt sympathetic. I felt bad for those animals. I felt bad for what was happening to Rocket. And it was just so sad, and it was just so brutal, and it was just so depressing. I'm telling you, every flashback sequence that involved Rocket, the entire theater was just fucking dead silent. Like, it was just so sad. It was just so, and like I said, as someone who already knew what was gonna happen, the moment they said Lila the Otter, I was like, oh, I know it. Oh man, I literally remember when the movie was announced, they said Lila the Otter. I was like, shit, I don't want to see that. I don't need to see that. I don't want to see it in the theater. But man, this movie, it got me sometimes. I never cried, but it got me. It did. Sometimes, like, especially the Rocket stuff, I was just like, oh, fuck. Whoo. Boy, boy, oh boy. On top of the emotional stuff, every character pretty much resolves. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but every character pretty much resolve. Either they realize what they need to do and go to try to fix it, or they resolve all the issues that they've had now. Like the way this ended in one of those ways. This ended in what's the word I'm looking for? One of those ways where they could continue. They could obviously continue. And they worked it in a way where they could continue, or they could bring everyone back, or the people who are alive back. Anyways, they can bring the people who are alive back. They can continue. They can bring some people back. They can replace some people. Some people could, whatever. They've worded it in a way in which they could do that, in which they could just bring people back, or to just not. But the way they broke it down, the way it ended up coming apart near the end, it was like, oh yeah, this is totally different. Like, and certain things happened in the movie that with especially with Peter Quill's character and his obsession with Gamora, and like them pretty much kind of saying, like, in the movie, like his arc was essentially getting over her, or not getting over Gamora so much as getting over like the reason he was so cling to her. It wasn't like love, it was like him not wanting to lose something because of his mother. And the fact of the matter is, he never fully got over it. Like, it seemed like it, but he never did. Rocket, dealing with Rocket's past. Even, like, Drax had a little thing going on. All the characters had a beautiful little arcs going on. Also, within the course of this movie is not only some of the best CGI in the MCU, one of the worst despicable villains in the higher evolutionary. I mean, this guy, now, I don't know if he's top tier, because I don't know, Loki, Thanos, Vulture, fucking Goblin. Like, there's some high caliber villains in the MCU. They're like, it feels like there isn't, but when you really like take a step back and look at the totality, Win-Woo, Eric Killmonger, I mean, hell, even Namor. Like, there's some fucking top tier villains, like intimidating villains. I don't know if he's up there, but I will give him this. He is definitely the most dislikable. Like, the other villains I was naming, I thought they were better than him because you got them. You got why Adrian Toomes was doing what he was doing. You got why how Killmonger got his mindset. You got why Thanos was thinking the way. Like, you got him. So it was like, okay, makes it even more intimidating because not only is he scary, but I get why he's doing it. Whereas the High Evolutionary, he's just a dick. Really, he's just an asshole. He's just a self-righteous asshole. They didn't, like, even they kind of make fun of the fact that he's a self-righteous asshole. But he is very dislikable, which is one thing. Like, if you're not gonna have your villain be this, in-depth character, have him be as dislikable as possible, right? And that's what they did. He was as dislikable as possible. You wanted this motherfucker to die. Good Marvel. Also, this movie contains one of the greatest action sequences in the MCU. The big final fight, they're playing No Sleep in Brooklyn, and that shit was badass. I was giddy. Remember, I think I said something in my John Wick review about how I was so excited watching the action sequences in John Wick that, like, I couldn't contain myself, dude. I was like, I'm in fucking action heaven, dude. That sequence in Guardians near the end was one of the baddest badasses MCU sequences of all time. That was so fucking dope. The choreography, the way it was broken down, the way it was executed, like it showed their teamwork. Oh man, I still think about that sequence and I'm like, oh, that was so badass. I just want to see it again, dude. Honestly, I almost want to go back to see the movie just to look at that sequence again. It was just so awesome, dude. Oh man, whew. Gives me goosebumps just thinking about that action sequence. But overall, the movie itself gets 9 out of 10. I don't know if it's as good as the first one. I'm not sure. Like, I'd have to sit back and think about that one for a while. Because the first one was so unexpectedly great. Whereas this one, I enjoyed the sequel. I know some people didn't like it as much. I enjoyed the sequel, but it was undeniably not as good as the original. At least to me. This one is much better than the sequel to Volume 2. But man, I'm not sure. It's up there, though. It's up there with the first one. It's definitely one of the best MCU movies they've made since, the new era. I'm not sure. Like, I'd have to, it's in the top 5 of the new phases. I can say that for sure. It's right there with, Shang-Chi and Wakanda Forever and Spider-Man, No Way Home and some of the, it's right in there with them. It's right in there with them at the top. It might be the top. I don't know. I haven't watched Wakanda Forever in a little bit. I might have to rewatch that, but I don't know. They both have packed an emotional punch. But this one, oh man, this was so good, man. It makes me sad, and you really, by the time it ends, you really feel like it's the end of an era. It really is. It's the end of an era. If they do the Guardians again, it's gonna be hard on whatever guy comes in to do that, right? Because they're gonna have to find a way to make it their own, right? They're not gonna get James Gunn back. Now, granted, I say that, but you never know. For all I know, the DC universe crashes in 5 years. James Gunn's out of a job, and Kevin Feige comes and goes, "Hey, want to direct the next? Hey, you want to direct the new Guardians movie?" I mean, who knows what's gonna happen 5 years from now? You never know. But they probably will want to find a new guy to come in, and that's gonna be hard. Not to mention, all the cast have been really talking like they're done. Like, and even at the end of this movie, the way the cast were talking, I was like, I thought everyone was gonna die. The way a lot of the cast members were talking, the only ones who weren't talking like they were moving on is Chris Pratt, Vin Diesel, and Bradley Cooper. Everyone else is talking like they're just like, oh, we're done. I'm like, God damn. It's not a coincidence that those three happen to be ones who aren't like, I don't know, James Gunn loyalists, so to speak, like super duper loyalists. But I digress. I love this movie. It was action packed, funny, emotional. It may be better than the original. It may be. But anyways, thank you guys for the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe, and comment below. What did you think of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Loved it. Thank you guys again. See you on the next one.